Hi, my name is Sarah Woodard. My mission is to create a world in which all beings are respected and honored. I'm an author, Reiki master teacher, certified shamanic practitioner, vegan, cat mom, and chemical-free beekeeper. I admit I didn't start out like vegan, and I didn't start out thinking there was anything wrong with how we live. But I can say that my journey to being vegan began in the womb. The family joke has always been that I was born early because I was trying to get away from the nasty food. My mom had calamari for dinner the night before, and I have never liked seafood. As I grew up, I became aware of where my food was coming from and what that truly meant for the animals. I swiftly gave up lamb, beef exited in college, and poultry was a few years later. I never ate pork, and so that was that. Or so I thought. Then I learned about the dairy industry. I admit giving up ice cream and cheese was hard, but I have never regretted it. Along the way, I also learned about how other choices we make impact the planet and ourselves. Things like what we buy, where it comes from, how it was made, and where it winds up. Stuff most of us don't think about too much. And because we don't think about it, we wind up disconnected from the world and from our true natures. With every lifestyle change I made, I felt more empowered, more connected to who I really am, which is why I can stand in front of you today giving this presentation with confidence. Today, I want to talk to you about finding your soul through connection with creation. Now, come with me for a ride in the Wayback Machine. We've arrived at a time when people lived off the land. They raised their own food, shared what they had with their community, and believed the riches of the earth were infinite. People watched wild animals and the sky to understand weather patterns, know when to plant, and many other things. If you've ever read The Little House on the Prairie or Anne of Green Gables books, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's even a scene in one of the Little House books where Pa tells Laura to look around. There's no way that we can ever use up all the land or its riches. I'm paraphrasing, but you get the idea. Now, let's fast forward a little bit. New inventions are making things easier. First, it was simple things like wheat reapers, the cotton gin, and the sewing machine. Then, the Industrial Revolution happened. With that, society became less agrarian and more focused on progress, technology, and the accumulation of stuff. At first, this seemed like a positive natural progression. Lives were more comfortable, people didn't have to work as hard, and more illnesses were preventable or curable. Now let's fast forward to today. We live in a society where we have largely forgotten our connection to the land. Food and just about anything else we want can be purchased with a quick trip to the store or the click of a button. It's become easier to use and replace rather than fix things. Now here's a small example. Who here loves their Swiffer? I know I do. It's convenient and it works well. But unless you're like me and use reusable cleaner pads, you're also making trash every single time you use it. On a larger scale, think about all the cell phones and computers that are discarded every year. When was the last time you even thought about recycling something like that? We live in a fast-paced society where we're expected to accumulate stuff as a sign of success. As a result, many people wind up with careers they don't like, and issues like stress and anxiety are far too common. Instead of relying on our senses to tell us about the world around us, we trust the weather report, which is frequently incorrect, social media, which is full of fake news, and other third-party sources. To feed this perceived need for information outside ourselves, we spend hours on our phones and behind computers. Whether working in jobs that don't fulfill us or scrolling and posting on the numerous social media accounts we feel obligated to have, this is one of the many ways we remain disconnected. We've become a society that is easily distracted by what others have and believe we should want it too. This keeping up with the Joneses mentality keeps us disconnected from the world and from ourselves. You can tell you're disconnected from yourself when you trust logic more than intuition, when you lack faith in a power greater than yourself, when you feel lost, purposeless, anxious without a reason, stressed or confused on a regular basis. Sound familiar? From a societal standpoint, disconnection shows up as a loss of balance. Where we once believed resources were infinite, we now know them to be finite, but we keep using them as we always did. We clear-cut forests and engage in farming practices that destroy the planet and its creatures, all of which are vital to the natural rhythms and cycle of life on the planet. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, 18 million acres of forest is lost each year for wood, paper, and other products. That's an area about the size of Panama. Further, more than 78 million acres of rainforest are destroyed every year to produce palm oil and other food and beauty products. For perspective, that's about the size of Poland. And let's not forget about water. According to the EPA, more than half of our rivers and streams and more than 1/3 of our lakes are so polluted they are unfit for human use of any kind. Add to that a finding by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences that 88% of the oceans are polluted, and you start to see the Earth is in big trouble. And that water pollution, a lot of it starts on land. According to an article in National Geographic, the world generated 3.5 million tons of solid waste per day in 2018. Let me say that number again. 3.5 million tons per day. More than 30% of that comes from the US. Water pollution is also caused by runoff from industrial plants and farms, though this is far more difficult to quantify. And speaking of farming, in the US, we slaughter about 10 billion, that's billion with a B, animals a year. Let me put that in perspective. That's about 1 million animal murders an hour. I'm going to say that again. 1 million animal murders an hour. That's the true price of your bacon, eggs, chicken, pork, lamb, veal, and beef meals. In the dairy industry, more than 9 million cows are abused, restricted, and malnourished to produce those tasty goodies. They live in cramped, horrible conditions and have their babies taken away. Traumatic to say the least. To cap it off, they survive less than 5 years, making the dairy industry one of our nation's biggest killers, along with other livestock producers. And let's not forget about fish. The journal Science recently published a study which found ocean populations have declined 1.4 million metric tons from 1930 to 2010. That's a lot of fish murders to supply your Fish Friday or Meatless Monday meals. Climate change and overfishing both play a role in this. Our valuable pollinators, the bees and butterflies, are in severe decline, in part because of practices like the almond industry employs. First, they move bees across the country, which is stressful for the bees, who perceive their hive entry as a GPS point in their head. Even worse, they use pesticides and other sprays as part of their crop management. They spray these while the bees are hard at work, causing confusion and often death. Plus, globally, there is more fear and mistrust. This shows up as terrorism, blocking refugees and immigrants from entering a country, embargoes, school shootings, and the list goes on. As we lost compassion for and connection with Earth, so too did we lose compassion for and connection with ourselves and others. Okay, take a deep breath. I know that this all sounds bad, and it is, so let's pause for a second to let it all sink in. This state of disconnection didn't happen overnight. As you saw from our trip in the Wayback Machine, it took generations, but the solution is within your grasp. Turn off the electronics. Get outside. Watch the birds, squirrels, bunnies, etc. outside your window. Notice how their behavior changes based on what's going on. What do you learn from that? Meditate. This does not have to mean sitting quietly with your legs crossed. It does mean finding a quiet space inside yourself. It means hiking, running, biking, boating, or sitting. It doesn't matter. The whole point is to find your quiet center so you can reconnect with your intuition and the world around you. Evaluate your decisions and purchases based on how they impact the world. Are you using products made from recycled and or recyclable materials? Have the beauty products you use been tested on animals? Was another being, plant, animal, mineral, or their habitat harmed in the creation of what you're going to buy, use, or eat? Plant a garden. Share your harvest. It's fresher and healthier than anything you'll buy in the store, plus it's super fun. Recycle. Switch to reusable grocery bags. Replace your lawn with pollinator-friendly plants. Can you trade for what you need rather than buying something new? Invest mindfully rather than signing up for a huge fund where anything goes. Vote with your conscience rather than a political party. Become vegan. Throw birdseed instead of rice at weddings. Support organic and/or local farmers. Use a water filter and refillable water bottle instead of tossing plastic ones. Blow bubbles made from eco-friendly soap instead of releasing balloons. Start programs in your community that are dedicated to raising awareness of these issues. Teach your kids to do these same things. You don't have to do all of these. Pick one or two that resonate with you. Each choice you make, each small change you make, brings you closer to reconnecting with the world around you. And each time you reconnect with the world around you, you take another step towards reconnecting with yourself and your soul. Remember, if we all do a little, we have a greater impact than if only a few people do a lot. And every dollar you spend is a vote for the world you want.